Does anyone have a question? Oh, yeah.
That's technically not a question. It's quite normal. Most guys who write horror are normal. It's the comedians and the romantic comedy people you got to watch out for.
It was a long process. We started work on this in the early 90s. We did 30 pages and got puffed, and didn't resume it again until about 2005. Then we found a way to do another 30 pages, and then we hit a wall for 6 months, and after that we were able to get to the end of the script. So it was a long, long process. A lot of things changed in the interim as well too, especially the way we saw serial killers, really. I mean, we were quite young when we started work on it, and we thought they were sort of counterculture kind of figures, but that slowly changed when we eventually realised they were just sort of scumbag grubs. And that then informed the script.
Well, we wrote our original screenplay, and initially it wasn't written to be a teen thriller. Shayne and I kind of wrote it for a more mature audience. Not being cynical, what I'm saying is, like, in years, like, we actually envisaged it would probably be an R-rated film, and so of course that precludes a lot of the teen market. And probably the original draft was probably even more depressing, more morally ambiguous. Not all the bad guys were punished, as does happen in real life, and yeah, and that was where it was at. And then yeah, John took over the script, and there was market mandate to make it more of a teen-orientated thriller, and John's got sensibilities that can take it in that direction, and that's where he took it. And yeah, I mean, probably the most significant thing that changed was the ending, I think, as far as the original draft was.
Well, it's a genuine, two sensibilities, and so it's a genuine Australian oddity now. Like, and I'm content with that.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's probably what's given it distinction and flavour in the market, is that marriage of where Shayne and I were originally coming from, which is undeniably still, you know, very much in the film, and it's a dark film.
I mean, he's got a pretty bad mo, and Malat had a pretty bad mo. So, in that way, Malat lived in a very normal house and a very normal street, so there is a bit of that in there, but most of them are like that anyway. I mean, as John pointed out, the idea of tandem killers is pretty common in Australia. It's husband and wife, just sort of partners getting into this sort of stuff. Happens a lot. So we based it on the couple on the Burnies in Perth. And the ending is actually remarkably like the way the Burnies were actually caught. One of the girls eventually escaped from the house. She was completely nutty, I think, so you weren't as exploitive as you should have been.
One of the other characters, Gary Parker, was actually kind of an amalgam of guys that used to actually chase Shayne and I around in their cars. When we were growing up, because we grew up in a town called Dalby out west, and we were just telling this story quite recently, but the bullying in the car, one night we were walking around to one of the two sort of places we frequented as bored teenagers, well, either the dump or the old cemetery, and we were heading out towards that night's choice, the dump, and a car kind of drove past us, and we were just pedestrians. They were in their muscle car, and tore past us and hit the brakes. Brake lights went on, spun around and chased us through the streets. And we did what our parents had always told us to do if ever a stranger tries to hurt you, that is run into someone's house to get away from them. And we actually ran through the backyard and ran up the back steps and started hammering on the door. And the car actually drove up into the backyard and under the Hills hoist, right up to the steps, and sat there revving the engine with the lights on high beam.
Well, something we actually didn't want to do was make them working class kids, because then you'd think it's got something to do with how they were brought up and how much, you know, money their parents had or whatever. So, you know, we intentionally slagged off on middle class kids by putting them in a canal estate. We figured, you know, because we're from working class background, so we weren't going to dump on them, but middle class, you know, who cares? I met Frank from Blue Velvet on the way down to the Gold Coast. I end up, well, first of all, a bunch of hoons tried to, again in a muscle car, tried to kill me in some mangroves just outside of Labrador. I hid in the swamp for a while, and finally I emerged, and I got a lift with someone even worse. He was dressed neatly, so I had faith getting into his car. I was with a friend too, he was in the back seat. This guy turned up the radio so my friend couldn't hear what he was saying. I was in the front. I should have suspected there was something up because we were covered in mud and he still picked us up. What he told me was that he had a shotgun in the boot, he was going to blow my friend away, and my friend couldn't hear it, so he was actually just nodding and smiling in the back as this guy was saying it to him. Then he said he had a 16-year-old girl stashed in a caravan on the Gold Coast, and he was on his way down there to screw her. So we asked to be let out at the nearest gas station, and he was nice enough to do that.
And one of the reasons why it was set around the Canal Estates as well, because, I mean, one of the themes running through the film is artifice and, you know, just the banality of evil, which, you know, is just that killers lurk in the everyday suburbs. It's, you know, they don't live in a big spooky gothic castle or in caverns under the ground. They just could be living in your street.
We had something else that we thought was going to get over the line before this one. It fell over, and this one came from nowhere. We didn't actually expect to get it up either. Yeah, we had basically a low opinion of what funding agencies were looking for, so we were actually really surprised ourselves when they went for a genre film.
Oh, well, it's completely different. I don't know if you saw the Q&A, but we had originally written a very adult, dark, complex, morally ambiguous thriller. Probably going to go for about, you know, over 2 hours running time. But
we wrote something just to entertain us, basically.
That's right.
If we were 16 years old, it would have been entertaining us at that age. But right. You know, we're in our 30s, and so we were the audience for it.
Yeah, we didn't write it as a teen thriller, and we're not really in the market. But you know, as far as an Australian teen thriller goes, I think it's a really good standard.
I mean, the test will be. It's had positive reviews. A few people have said it sucked, but that's mostly us two.
No, that's there's been a lot of online reviews, you know, praising the film, and we're just not in the market. And the people that respond to it have been doing it very favourably, and it's gotten into a lot of pretty high-profile genre film festivals.
Well, look, we're writers, so if they change like a full stop or a comma, we get, you know, furious. So. You should ask someone else that has no connection to the film.
I was more listening. I've been listening this time. So when I was watching it, more for the involuntary reactions, the gasps and the that's patronising. I'll stand up. The gasps and the twitches and that kind of thing, because people can't control those reactions, and people are shocked and horrified. Most people have said to me they're scared, they're terrified by it and disturbed by it, and so, you know, it did its job.
I mean, the ending we did was. Mark just left her. He just walked out onto there. He's a kid. The guy's a multiple killer. He's not going to be able to stop him. And the arrangement they came to is he knew what Mark had done, as in was involved with the death of Tanya, and Mark knows what he's done. So there's a status quo that's maintained. So he has to walk away. But Mark's not going to have a happy ending. He's not going to get the girl, and that's what the guy wants to do to him. He wants to punish him for taking him through all that anxiety of being sort of unearthed locally. So, yeah, that was the concept we had for it. It wasn't. It wasn't as. I mean, we got no problem with gore and buckets of blood, but it just wasn't an ending like that.